Well, goodness gracious, welcome to the stream, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. We are so sorry for the technical delays on our side, but welcome to the State of Freedom, where we are grounded in faith in the Constitution and we are committed to giving voice to the truth, living with courage, and taking action. It is Wednesday, January 21st. It's 8 p.m. Central, well, a little bit after that because of all my tech difficulties. But I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my dear friend and co host, the founder and watchdog in chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander. And we are coming to you live on X, Rumble, YouTube, Voice of the People USA TV and radio network, and Facebook. You can also always catch us later on the audio only platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. Well, we are so thrilled to have you joining us for a special evening premiere of the Warrior Circle. This is a new format of show for us, and we are going forward, we expect it to be back at our 10 a.m. Central time slot because, let's be honest,
Thank
folks,
God.
this is my bedtime. we're not in the best shape. But anyway, we're going to be fine. We're going to be absolutely
Trudge it. Hey,
fine.
we're conservatives. We don't make excuses.
We're going to power through it. I am excited about tonight, so I don't think
Me too.
I'm at any risk of falling asleep. But we wanted to launch this show with someone who has been an absolute favorite of this audience, JJ Carrell. And before we get into JJ's introduction, just to tell you about the show, it is going to be the first and third Wednesday of every month, back at the 10 a.m. Central Time slot. And on those shows, we will have a dedicated Q&A for subscribers only. If you are watching now and you want to subscribe, you can do that at join.freedomstate.us. And I'll just put that up. Well, I'll put it up later on the screen, and we will monitor the chat during the show, but we will open it up for Q&A for about the last half hour of the show, and we want you to be very engaged. And thank you again for everybody who has stuck with us through our tech difficulties for the first 8 or so minutes of the show. But let me bring on JJ and introduce him. Hey, JJ, welcome to the show. Sorry about all that.
No, I feel your pain. I've been there before. And we said a prayer before the show, and it doesn't matter. I think Satan lives in tech. That's why I think he dwells.
Yes,
I
I think he
know.
does.
I know, and he has been meddling so much lately. And JJ, you don't need an introduction with this audience, but I want to give you one anyway. JJ is a retired Border Patrol agent who left under the Biden regime. He is an author, a podcaster, and a documentary filmmaker of some very harrowing films about the Biden administration's treason against the people of this country through their deliberate open border policies that have led to the invasion of our nation and horrific trafficking of countless children into our country. I believe, JJ, when you first came on, you told us it was up to 300,000 children, many of whom I believe are still missing. And I know, JJ, you're back in federal law enforcement now, and you're going to give us some unfiltered take on your unfiltered take on some current events. But if we get too close to things that you're working on and can't say anything, you just feel free to say, "Hey, I can't talk about that right now," and we'll
Yeah.
keep moving on.
No, that sounds great. I appreciate you guys having me back on, and it gives me. I see the intro of your show because I grew up in Louisiana, outside of New Orleans in Slidell and Pearl River, and seeing is it Jackson Square. It has bring back memories of being in high school there, and then my father was a Secret Service agent, and he guarded Pope John Paul II, who became a saint. And we have incredible pictures of my father guarding the Pope when he visited New Orleans. So a lot of memories when I'm watching the intro.
Well, how
That's very
amazing.
powerful.
Oh,
Very,
that's so
very powerful.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
it
but
really is, JJ. You come by it honest, for sure.
Well, I appreciate it. And you mentioned the children that, when I first came on, it was 300 plus thousand. It was over 550,000 lost children by the time Joe Biden left office. And as of today, I believe they have located 120,000 of them. So they're still missing, 400 plus thousand. But I will also tell you the 550,000 lost unaccompanied alien children, you could double or triple that number. I'd feel very confident saying that that is the real factual number of lost children in America.
that's
Yeah.
absolutely horrific.
JJ,
Absolutely horrific.
it, it,
Ho-
it,
ho-
it, it, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking to my. Oh, go ahead, Danielle. I'm
No,
sorry.
sorry. I was just going to say, let me do the scripture of the day, and then we'll get
Oh, I'm
into
sorry. Sorry
all the
about
hot
that.
topics. Yeah, we
Yes.
got to set the tone so we don't
Different
go
hour, everything. What are we doing? All
go
different
amiss.
times
I
of the
know,
day.
I know. But it's First Corinthians, and I think it's so appropriate for tonight. It's First Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Hang on, folks. Are we having issues? It's not live. Excellent. All right. Well, okay. I'm not really sure what to do. Well, I want her to come back and tell me if we're live on anything. Is Katie telling you if we're live anywhere, Chris? It says live,
Call mama.
Chris.
When in doubt, I just call mama.
Chris, are you an IT guy?
Um,
No, Danielle's going no.
I'm not. I mean,
Unfortunately,
that is
no.
probably JJ. The under to suggest that I'm not an IT guy is probably understatement of your lifetime. Thank God for Danielle.
Oh gosh, you know when I was doing my documentary, "What Is Treason?" Traffic with Ryan Matta, and he's about 25 years younger than I am, and he would get so frustrated with me and say, "Look, you just have to hit this button and do this, and then you cut and paste it." And I was like, and he gets so angry. And I said, "Time out, time out." I said, "Do you think I'm your age?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "You grew up doing tech. I had a typewriter my first year in the United States Border Patrol, and we had 3 carbon copies." I said, "I'm trying to catch up to the iPhone, and you're in quantum physics. You know, it's crazy."
And he's an intense guy. I can only imagine.
Oh.
As mad as he gets on social media, if you didn't press the right button, I'm sure he was up in your grill. Okay, I got the all signs go. It looks like we have made it live. So I'm going to read the scripture of the day, and we will persist. All right, it's First Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. It's going to be a very familiar passage to folks. It says, "Love is large and incredibly patient." We can say that about all of our remaining audience members. "Love is gentle and consistently kind to all. It refuses to be jealous when blessing comes to someone else. Love does not brag about one's achievements nor inflate its own importance. Love does not traffic in shame and disrespect, nor selfishly seek its own honor. Love is not easily irritated or quick to take offense. Love joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. Love is a safe place of shelter, for it never stops believing the best for others. Love never takes failure as defeat, for it never gives up." And in John, as I was reading that this morning, another scripture on love came to mind, and that was John chapter 15, verse 13, where it says, Jesus, "For the greatest love of all is a love that sacrifices all. And this great love is demonstrated when a person sacrifices his life for his friends." And then Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, 14, "Let love and kindness be the motivation behind all that you do." And so now this command to love is a fixed point. It's the North Star. It's a kind of continual love and action described in these passages is impossible to keep up in our own strength. It's absolutely impossible. It requires us to remain entwined as one with the Lord. As Jesus talks about in John 15, it requires us to do what Paul describes in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where he says, "Let joy be your continual feast, make your life a prayer, and in the midst of everything, always be giving thanks. For this is God's perfect plan for you in Christ Jesus." And it means that we must absolutely follow the instructions of Ephesians chapter 6 and put on the full armor of God. And what's amazing to me is that the Lord showed me this morning, in order to live in love, we have to be suited up, equipped, and prepared for the spiritual war, because love protects and defends. Love goes on the offensive and stakes out the territory that God has promised us for our inheritance, for our children and future generations. And that territory, I believe, is both in the spiritual realm and in the physical realm.
Yeah, I think it is too. No question about it. You know, when you're reading the scripture, Danielle, and it is so eloquent the way St. Paul puts it. And I can't help but think, and I know we're going to be talking about this tonight, I can't help but think of some of these children who have been subjected to things that no child should ever be subjected to. Unfortunately and sadly, many of them are probably won't be found. The ones who do are going to probably suffer psychological scars for the rest of their lives. And I say that to say this. To the extent that these kids, the ones who are recovered, do come to a point in life where they can truly appreciate the love of God, it will be because of people like JJ Carrell, who sacrificed so much to rescue them from the clutches of such evil. And he has done it time and time again, which is why I am so privileged to have him with us tonight. JJ, you don't even understand what a privilege it is to have you on the State of Freedom. My brother-in-law was so mesmerized. He's a surgeon up in Joplin, Missouri, and he was so mesmerized the last time you came on, it seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, that he actually called me up and said, I didn't even know who JJ Carrell was, but that's one of the most powerful podcasts I've ever seen in my life, and I just wanted to let you know that.
Well,
He's
thank
never
you.
done that before. We've done 350 podcasts, and that's the only one that he called me up and said that. So you are just a powerful, powerful force in the world and doing such great good. So God bless you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me back on your show and have to talk about topics like this. This is no one likes to hear it, but if we're going to be honest, I honestly believe that this is a spiritual war. This is no longer Democrat, Republican, right or left. I think this is now. I also believe the Democrats and the left are evil. I will just say that out loud, and I challenge anyone to contradict what I'm saying or try to prove me wrong. But I believe Satan is not. He did for quite a while in my life, in time frame of my life. He convinced the world that he didn't exist. That was his magic trick he did. Now it seems as if he's come out full force and said, nope, I lied. I've been here the whole time, and I'm here now, and I'm dominating. And if you look around, he is dominating. I'll give your audience just one point happened today. Within 6 hours of the new Virginia governor, she signs a bill into law saying that you could kill a baby all the way up until that baby enters the vaginal canal and for birth of the woman. Can you believe that? So we're going to kill a baby as the head starts crowning to come out for, quote, life and shunt the head. There is no other explanation that we live in a dark time in modern history, and that is because we have evil in our communities, in our society. I truly believe that.
Yeah, that is so evil.
It's hard to imagine it's hard to imagine being able to sanction something like that. I can't help but think of, Paul said in the scripture, and Danielle and I have talked about this, that people who are truly evil, and I'm sure it didn't happen overnight, they are blinded. Paul says that they become blinded to the light. They become blinded to the good, and they actually don't even understand that what they're doing is as colossally evil as it is. They're just blinded to their own evil. That's the only way I can sort of understand how people can engage in such horrific things, JJ.
Well, let's look at Tim Walz. I think it was about a month ago. He signed a bill for abortion on demand, and there was about 50 or 100 women, all childbearing age women, behind him as he signed it, and they're clapping. They're clapping for the ability to kill their children. I mean, there is no words. I could spend the next 24 hours trying to articulate the level of evil for a woman. That means that she has to fight every single bit of her natural instinct God put in her to kill her baby. And they're cheering for it. So I believe we absolutely live in dark times. I believe the Democrats and I believe the left are evil. They're Satan possessed. They're evil, because you're right. When you look at them, you look at their eyes and you look at what they're doing and who they champion for, who they protect, it is all evil. It's not even like, well, that's kind of bad. They're arguing about, Keynesian, monetary supply and all. No, 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 no. We're talking about you're fighting law enforcement officers in Minnesota because you're protecting Somalis that have just stolen $25 billion from you, have committed heinous rapes and murders all across America. And that's who you're protecting. These people
Yeah.
are sick, and we are in a war. And I don't think Americans fully understand the level of battle that we're in right now.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on your point about abortion. There was a time where people that were pro-choice would say they would acknowledge that it would be an absolute travesty if it had to happen, and it's a method of last resort and all this stuff. I'm not saying that any of those things are true or right, but at least there was some hint of morality left and an understanding that this is a human life that you're actually taking. And there's, an acknowledgement of regret about the situation. Now, there are people on social media, and you're the kind of people that you're talking about, JJ, who are, it's like a belt, a notch on their belt to count the number of abortions they've had. It's absolutely just staggering. It's absolutely
Sick.
mind blowing. Yeah, it's sick.
Well, this is a very important topic for me because my son, my wife and our son, Joseph, we adopted him at birth. And my son and I, we talk about this quite a bit. He and I use podcast. I use podcasts to be able to speak to him, so I'm not harping. So we watch a podcast and then we'll dissect it and talk about it, and we'll talk about abortion. And I'll tell my son, you are the living example, son, of abortion's horrible. You changed your mother and my life. You've changed people's lives already. What you're going to get married and have a beautiful wife and a family and children, and your tree is going to bloom, and you're going to have grandchildren and great grandchildren. I said, if you snuff out your life, son, everything changes. Your mom and dad, our life is completely altered without you. You are the prime example of adoption and life, and every life should be holy and sacred. And we've lost that. Think about this. Think about when you think about the totality of the murder. 63 million and counting just in America abortions since Roe v. Wade. 63 million. So if you just do a 1-for-1, meaning those people that got aborted would have met someone, had a baby, just had one. Now we're at 120 million. They would have had a child. That's 180 million children. Just 180 million people were murdered just on a one. What if they had two kids? Now we're at 250 million. Dear God, look at what we've done to ourselves. This is
Yeah.
incredible.
Have you ever talked to this woman who's part of the Sovereignty Coalition? Chris, do you remember her name? We had her on probably 2 years ago. Her name will come back to me, but she was an attorney who was representing women in China who were being sterilized, who were having forcible abortions. And she
Yeah.
talked about the absolutely unbelievable number of babies that have been aborted in China specifically. And you can only imagine because look how massive it is.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I mean,
JJ, it's so interesting, Danielle. I got to think of her name, but that was really a fascinating interview. JJ, you talk about the massive number of abortions that we've had in the country. Do you know in 1973, when abortion was made legal in the United States, they never thought, I guarantee you, that the people who wanted to make abortion legal, if you had told them that 50 years later, or whatever it is, we would have gotten to a point where it has become the Holocaust that it is in the United States, they would not have believed it. But they didn't understand something that my dad always used to say. Once you set the precedent that it's okay under any circumstance to destroy an innocent human life, you are setting the precedent that whereby the rest is just a matter of time and degree. Once you set that precedent, it only expands. And this is really, as horrific as it is, JJ, this is the inevitable result of that first moment of legal compromise under Roe v. Wade. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I absolutely agree. I believe in the slippery slope. I don't think that America didn't end up in this moral cesspool that we're in right now. It took time. We had to get there. Remember when being gay was we didn't even talk about it. I remember we didn't even talk about it. Then it became, hey, let's acknowledge it. Okay, they're people. Okay, let's let them let's let them get married. Okay, now let's let them adopt children. Now they can be transgender. They can teach our children about being transgender and gay. You see how fast that went? That was
Yeah.
like lightning fast. And all of a sudden, I have men with fake breasts gyrating and doing striptease in front of children as their parents clap. And you're telling me that my son's guidance counselor thinks that he is a woman now and he's having one-on-one time with my son? No, that's not going to happen. I believe that we got here over a period of time, but it was rapid. It was a rapid descent into hell. And
Yes.
and just there's just a rhetorical question. Do you think that we're better off and more and happier in the 1970s and 80s than we are today? We're miserable people today. I don't care what
We
anyone
are.
says. We're miserable.
We are.
Yeah.
And
then
they
you know
say,
what?
JJ, they say we've got the women. Well, look at the, the last 50 years, the feminist movement, women's liberation. Supposedly, this has been a trajectory of progression for women. The way I look at it right now, in many quarters, even in our own country, women have never been more objectified or more degraded than they are right now, 50 years into the feminist movement.
Oh, the feminist movement destroyed feminism. It destroyed the femininity of a woman. They made them masculine. Look, I also can take a direct line from the amount of abortions that the women have today and look at the white Karens that are in our society today. And there's a direct I bet I would pay money for someone to run tests to see how crazy a Karen is absolutely direct line to how many abortions she's had, because I believe it had to have massive influence physiologically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally to make them this crazy, because they're crazy. The women are unhappy, and they should be. They've been lied to. They were told it's better. Think of this, Chris. They were told it's better to submit to a total stranger in corporate America. Try to rise up to middle management and have that guy tell you when you can take days off, you can't do anything when you have vacation, or submit to a man in the Bible and have a loving husband that's going to bust his ass for you, and you're going to have children that are going to love you, and you're going to show love to them that you didn't even know existed. No. They convinced entire generations that that's a lie, and the real goal is to try to rise up into middle management in some soulless corporation. It was masterful what they did. And when I say they, I'm talking about the anti-American, anti-God, feminist, Marxist, communist cabal that has taken over our government, and it has taken us over. And we do not live in a republic anymore. I do not believe that. I believe that we're past the Constitution. We're past normal, what our founding fathers gave us. It has been dissolved as something else. It's nothing that I recognize today.
And JJ, I don't know if I may have seen this on your X feed, but there was a woman who gave an incredible explanation of what's happened to these women who are, the Rebecca Good type champions who are out here throwing themselves in front of illegal aliens that have done unspeakable things to children, American children, and are, endangering the lives of ICE agents. And she talked about the fact that, and I think it was your X feed, but she just said that women are denying themselves their core, basic, instinctual every instinct that they have been given by God. And so what they do is that instinct has to come out in some way. And so it's coming out for all of these liberal causes.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's climate, whether it's the illegals, whether it's Ukraine, I mean, whatever flavor of the month you want it to be. But that is why these, I mean, basically white liberal women are out
Mm-hmm.
there acting like such lunatics because they have misplaced their nurturing instinct.
Well, you look at, I take my mother and I take my wife, for example. They're successful women, business, all that, but their life is consumed for the well-being of their families and their children. That's all. Everything revolves around, do I have food in the house? Do I have dinner ready? Is the house clean? Is my kid, how is my children doing? Are they okay? Oh, he looks or she looks sad today. What's going on? So they're consumed. When you were childless and you've ripped your womb to shreds so you can never have babies, that has to come out somewhere. It has to, like you said. Is it Ukraine? Is it illegal aliens? What is it? You have women, like, let's take that woman that unfortunately,
And I was just corrected. It's Renee Good, not Rebecca. I was
yeah,
corrected in the chat.
Renee
Thanks for
Good
that, JRT.
and Rebecca Good. Okay, she left her family, her child, to come chase ICE officers, and then use her car as a missile. And then she's so manipulated through propaganda and stupidity, she thinks that she's allowed to do that, that there's no repercussions. I believe that I believe America was founded solely on the foundation. The foundation America was founded on was law and order. Because if you don't have law and order, you have chaos. Chaos creates a fight or flight feeling. You don't look to grow or save for the future. You're just trying to survive. What's happened in America? We went from a very law and order country to a lawless country, and it's created chaos. And we have chaos all over the country right now, all over the country, to the point that law enforcement officers like myself have to withstand people spitting on us, calling us vile names, threatening physical violence, shooting us, driving us over, trying to stab us. I mean, what in God's name has happened to our nation? And I'll finish with this. One of the character flaws of the United States of American citizens is this. We live in the present and we think that everything that is happening now has always happened. This is an anomaly in American and historical history. This is an anomaly that men can have babies, that I can punch a police officer, that I don't have to obey laws. I live in my true reality, and everyone else has to conform to this. This is a mental illness more than anything, I believe, in America.
Yeah.
It's a combination of mental illness, and Satan is just preying on these weak individuals, and he's winning.
Yeah. We were talking, I believe, yesterday about it, the spirit of lawlessness and the Antichrist spirit being the spirit that prefers the criminal and the thief and the murderer to the innocent.
Well, what do you think? What do you think the outcome is going to be? Because I like to think of it being in my work in law enforcement or writing a book or doing whatever. I'm always looking down the road, meaning, okay, if I take this action, what's the expectation that what is going to materialize in 6 months, a year? So I look at these issues that are facing us today, and I ask myself, what does it look like in a year? If nothing changes, nothing drastic changes, what does America, what does my community and society look like? And it looks like absolute pain and suffering. And I don't care if people like to say, well, you're a black pillar. No, I'm a realist. I used to be optimistic like my father was always optimistic, incredible man, and I shared that optimism. I have come to the point in my life where I am a stone cold realist. I see things the way they are, and I'm just going to tell you what I feel. And if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. But I believe that we are hurtling to pain and suffering that we can't even imagine as a nation. We're closer to a civil war. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I believe that a civil war of some type is in our near future if we don't make major, massive changes in our government, in our society.
Yeah. And JJ, on that note, we were talking about the children earlier, And I was thinking about when USAID was getting defunded, I guess this summer probably is when it was. I don't think I talked to you since then. Were any of these organizations that you'd identified, Save the Children, the Catholic Charities, and others of those, were you tracking that closely? Did you see were they major recipients of funding from
Oh,
USAID?
they all were. They,
Yeah.
this
I
is this,
assumed they were.
yeah, and if your audience doesn't, just a quick synopsis. So, in order for the Joe Biden's administration to move 30 million people to the Mexican-American border and then transport them from the border to the interior of America, we don't have the manpower. The federal government does not have the apparatus, meaning the vehicles. They don't have the coordination technique. They don't have anything. So they had to partner with a group of people, and who they partnered with were non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and the vast majority, the most effective NGOs, all had ties to religion. So I'm telling you, every religious faction in America was tied to the NGOs and the federal government, and were making tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars annually, not total, annually. Catholic Charities, Jewish Family Services, Lutheran Family Services, Seventh-day Adventist, okay, Baptist, every denomination you can imagine was getting funded. USAID gave money internationally to groups like Soros and Open Society, et cetera, et cetera. They funded all the Catholic Charities and all the highest and all them, and they brought 30 million people up to America, and then DHS washed the money through FEMA. FEMA gave all the money to the NGOs in the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars, and that's how our government facilitated the greatest invasion in the history of mankind, through the
Wow.
NGOs.
And JJ, these NGOs and these religious institutions who were complicit in this,
Yes.
they understood, they knew exactly what was going on. They knew the horrific nature of the activity here. I just want to wrap my arms around this. I know you talked about this the last time you were on the show, but it always stuns me to hear you talk about this. That
No,
these
they-
avowedly religious institutions were knowingly participating and facilitating this.
They had to know. And I know they knew. They absolutely knew. They were taking money. They were taking 30 pieces of silver in God's name, and they were trafficking people into America. Absolutely, they knew. They were the mechanism. HHS and ORR. ORR is Office of Refugee Resettlement. Think of them as a giant CPS, federal. They facilitated the movement of all these children. ORR and HHS utilized the NGOs. The NGOs were trafficking the children into America. They were trafficking the women into America. And then all the men, the single adult military age men. 60 to 70% of the 30 million people that came into America were single adult military age men from the continent of Africa, the Middle East, places like Somalia, Haiti, Venezuela, and all the Kurdistans all across the Middle East came into America through the NGOs. And they knew it. They all knew it, and they took billions and billions. Let me give you one number so your audience can have some concept to this. I'm Catholic, so this pains me very, very much. So Catholic Charities, and trust me, Catholic Charities is tied to the hip to the Catholic Church. That's a lie. Don't ever let anybody believe that's a separate organization. Catholic Charities received $5.2 billion from 2014 to 2024, when Biden left. I think that number is grotesquely a lie, but let's just go with it, okay? This is what they claim. $5.2 billion for refugees. Do you know how much money the Catholic Church gave to sex victims? Not the lawyer fees, just the sex victims. Do you know how much money that was? $5.2 billion. And then there is, and I please forgive me for not knowing this man's name. He did an expose on this, and I'll go back in my notes right away and look for it. He did an expose, and he showed how Biden administration backdoored enormous sums of money to the Catholic Church, so the Catholic Church didn't have to to liquidate their churches and buildings to pay the sex victims. And one of the ways they did that was through the refugee resettlement. That's how vile Catholic Charities is. That's how vile our government is.
Wow. And and I just want to make a note before we go any further that if folks have any questions in the chat, please go ahead and chat them in. But that is just so disgusting. And I think we're in a time, I mean, from probably late 2019, well, early 2020, a lot of us have started praying then for exposure, because we believed that there was so much wrong, starting with COVID and then the election and on and on and on and on. The entire Biden presidency. So I think, we're reaping the fruit of those prayers now, but it's not anything pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
Well,
JJ, I have a question for you.
yes.
What is you know, you see, I mean, you obviously, you know about abortion, but you've seen other very, very horrific things, things almost equally vile, and you've spent a long time in your life fighting against it, and you continue to fight against it with energy and with passion. How is it that you maintain your your vibrancy, your energy, your hope when some of the things that you see have got to be very depressing and even cause some people to go into a despair?
That's a great question. I will say this, and I'm always, if I'm one thing, I'm honest. I don't have any hope. Well, let me rephrase that. I have a very, very small sliver of hope. I have seen too much in my career in the border, and just in anybody that's done it for as long as I have, has seen how humanity is not good. It is evil, has propensity for extreme violence, and it's the border where I worked was violent, hopeless, desperate. Abuse of life was, who cares? It's like a piece of gum, just throw it away. So I become extremely desensitized to all of it. I have found when I was working on the border, the thing that would pain me the most, where it would be very hard for me to maintain composure, is when I arrested the pedophiles, the child rapists. I just wanted to bury them out in the border and no one would know where they are. I just would rather bury them. That's the only thing that caused me some sleepless nights. But sadly, and I say this because I know says a lot of bad about me, but I have become desensitized to it. I don't care. Meaning, not that I don't care about the kids or the women being raped. I expect it. So when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Juan's body, he's 5 years old. He sold his body. They sold his body for $250,000 last year," meaning he had to be anally or orally raped at least 10, 15 times a day in order to get that money. And then they just raped him to death. Okay, that doesn't shock me. I expect it. Like of course, my mantra is, of course. Well, of course, you brought in third world savages. You brought in over a million children unaccompanied, babies to teenagers, and they disappear. You have no idea where they are. If I really press myself on why I do this, so like, why did I go back into federal law enforcement after being retired for 4 years? No one's ever done this. This is very unique. President Trump asked for guys like myself to come back to fight in this war, and I said, okay, I have more books in me. I want to do more documentaries, but I know I have a special skill set that I'm very good at. I may not be very good at IT like you or be able to do certain things, but I'm damn good out in the field. Like, I know how to handle myself. I know policy and law. I was a high leader in the Border Patrol, so I know how to lead men. So I feel an obligation. So you ask me, how do I do it? Well, I have a young son that's 14 years old. He's very aware of what's going on in the world because I don't hide him from it. I never want my son to look at me and say, well, Dad, you knew this was happening, but you didn't do it. You talked about it, but you had a chance to go back and do something and you didn't do it. Why didn't you do that, Dad? Knowing my son's looking at me like, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. what you taught me. Those are just words that you told me. Now, as my son grows older, he's going to look back on me. And when I went and testified in front of Congress and got called all those vile names, when I put my books out there to be ridiculed and then come to find out, no, I was right about it all. Now my son sees me go to work or hears me sees me come back when I'm exhausted, knows that I'm going to be on special units chasing bad guys. At least now when I go talk to my son about responsibility to be a strong Christian man, to be a patriotic American, that's not going to be lip service. He's going to have a person, a man to compare himself to. He'll be way better than me when he gets older.
Wow.
But isn't that the responsibility of a father to say to his son, this is what I want you to aspire to be. This, and then I'm going to do it. I'm going to fail, son. I'm going to fail multiple times, but I'm going to try. And you're never going to be able to look at me and say, why didn't you do it? I did it while everyone else was sitting on the porches. I did it, and my son's going to know it. And to me, outside of all catching all the bad guys and helping America, that's the biggest drive for me, Chris, is I want to be that gauge of what a real man is to my son, as
Wow.
flawed as I am.
Wow. That is so powerful. So when you wake up, JJ, I don't know what time you get up in the morning, but whenever you wake up in the morning, you're saying that most of the time it's that sense of duty and example for your son that drives you. It's not even necessarily so much the arresting or apprehending the bad guys or exposing the evil. It's you want to be able to look back and say that even on the very worst of days, you faithfully did your duty and you set the example you were supposed to set.
Yes, and then my driving, we all have, as we get older in life, we have regrets. There's no escaping regret. That's just, it's going to be part of life. But I try to minimize my regret. And one of my regrets that I never want to have is I should have, right? I should have tried. So when I'm 80 years old or I'm dying, and maybe America's great, maybe it's flourishing, and maybe it's dying, but I'm never going to say to myself, I wonder if you would have done that, maybe things could have changed, right? Maybe if you could have been there and gone back to federal law enforcement and made those arrests, because you can't quantify negatives. Meaning, I'm in the course of the next year to 4 years, however long I stay in, I'm going to make hundreds, if not thousands of arrests. So I know when I go to work every day that the people I arrest, there are going to be rapists, murderers, pedophiles, drug dealers, everything, but I can't quantify the crimes in the future that I just saved Americans from, right? So if I'm able to remove these people from America, they cannot commit the crimes that they absolutely 100% were going to commit in the future. That's what drives me. I believe also God has given me, and I prayed about this. I didn't just willy-nilly go, okay, I'll come back. I had to have some serious thought and prayer about this. Is this where you want me to go? So when I wake up and get in my car, one of the very first things I say is my prayer, please keep me safe, and thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Not many men get to do this again, which I did before. I'm very proud of my career in the United States Border Patrol. I did some amazing things that I took for granted, but now that I've been out to look back and go, my God, why? How could anybody have done that? Now I'm going back into that very violent, dirty, nasty world that I thought I had escaped. Like I honestly felt when I left my career, I've escaped. I've had broken bones. I've had very violent, traumatic things on the border. And I thought, damn, I got out of there. I got out of there alive. Now, as I'm driving, as I'm thanking God, as I'm driving to work, at the same time, I'm thinking, oh, please let me make the right decision. Like I escaped. Please let me escape again. I will work my ass off for you, God, but please let me get out of this alive and unscathed. So that is a concern, but I feel an obligation. And I think men like me that are coming back into federal law enforcement, per the asking of our President Trump, I believe the majority of us feel the same way. And we feel it's not an obligation. It is an obligation, but we don't feel that. We feel like we're being blessed to be able to do this again. Instead of watching everything transpire on TV, I'm going to be in that world again, and that is exhilarating to me, because I know this is going to say a lot of bad about me as it does good, but I function and do very, very well in a violent world. And I believe God made me that way. For many years in my career, I tried to shy away from it. I tried to not acknowledge that that was part of who I am, but that is part of who I am, and I embrace it. I see that as a positive, not a negative. And as I look at men in America and how impotent and weak and cowardly they are, I and the men that I work with are the anomaly in the world today. It is the alpha male, the Christian man that has created all of this angst in America. If the Christian man would have stood up and said, no, we're not going to have 30 million people come into America. No, we're not going to have transgender in our houses of worship and our schools. No, we're not going to allow you to steal our election. No, we're not going to allow drugs to pour into our nation. If we would have stood up and said, no, things would change. And people say, give me an example, and I'll give you an example that happened last Sunday. When those savages came in there and interrupted that church service, what did the Christian men do in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the church? They did nothing. If those type of people came into my church, I would single-handedly beat them back out the doors, and I know that 50, 100, 200 men in my congregation would have done the same thing. But we are an anomaly in the world today, and that's frightening.
Well, and JJ, I think that's the gift of a warrior. I think that, you think about King David, he was a warrior before he was king, and he was a warrior while he was king. And I just want to ask the audience that's watching now to commit to pray for our law enforcement, for our troops that are going back in, who have chosen to go in for a second time, and those who are going in for the first time because they want to be part of restoring our country. I think it's so vitally important that they have prayer backup, and they know that they have prayer backup. And JJ, you have a flicker of hope, because you said, if I'm 80 and I'm dying and America is flourishing, so there's a chance. There is a chance. And what would it take? What would it take in your estimation for that to happen?
It has to be a spiritual component. There has to be a revival of Christianity, and this is going to be, a lot of people don't want to hear this. We have to eradicate our nation of Muslims and Islam. It's incompatible with the West. The quote Judeo-Christian cabal, that is our founders did not ever use the word Judeo-Christian. We have different factions inside of our government. We have a government that has multiple allegiances to Israel, to Guatemala, to Peru, to Russia. We have literally people with multiple dual citizenships in our society. I would eradicate all of that. I would never, ever, ever allow first-generation immigrants, legal or illegal, to be in our houses of power. That's absurd. There's no other nation that will allow that to happen. We have people that literally got off the boat, got into communities in where we just flooded a community with Somalis, and they become a congresswoman, and she's violent, she hates America. I also believe the 50 million plus illegal aliens that are in our country have got to be rounded up and removed from our society. I don't care how you do it, but the military is going to have to be attached to it. And I also believe that law and order has to come into effect, and it has to be swift. All these things have to be done. There needs to be a immigration moratorium, meaning all legal immigration stops. We have a filthy, hoarding style house, meaning our house is so in disarray that in order to clean it out, what do? You stop everything and you start sifting through the garbage that's in your house, and you get it tidy again. We are living in a nation that it no longer represents or resembles the founding documents and founding leaders, period. We were a white Christian nation of Anglo-Saxons from Western European nations. And damn it, we should never apologize for that. Do we ask Japan to apologize for being Japanese, or the Chinese, or the Iranians, or the Russians, or the Mexicans? No, we don't. So why in God's name are we bowing down as white Anglo-Christians and saying, please take everything that we have? Take it all. No,
Question.
It's absurd.
Question, JJ. obviously you can't reduce all of our problems to this because they pre-existed him and they'll post-exist him. But how much better off do you think we would be culturally now if the 2020 election had not been stolen from President Trump?
That we would live in a different nation, a 100% different nation. Let's just talk immigration just for a second. My last year, when I left, it was Joe Biden's first year, I watched the treason begin to accelerate, and it was shocking. Like, I'm rarely shocked. I was shocked. I was like, dear God, what the hell's going on? We're releasing everybody. It's against the law. We can't. Shut up, JJ, shut up. No, I'm not going to shut up. Well, then I had to decide, okay, I got to retire because I'll never make it. I'll never make it another day. I want your audience to understand, we were within 6 to 9 months of having the border completely shut down if he didn't have the election stolen. How do I know that? I just knew it. I saw all the data was coming down to my office, and I would disseminate it to my station. We were about 500 people a day being arrested. 500 a day. Donald Trump took the office the second time, and he shut the border down on day one. Not day 1,000, day one. There hasn't been anyone crossing. Anybody that's crossed gets arrested and deported. No one's released. So right now, we would remove 30 million people that are in America right now would be gone. Gone. We wouldn't have it. Ask yourself this, Chris. We have a housing shortage. A housing shortage in America. Well, if I remove 30 million people, do you think we'd have a housing shortage? If I remove 50 million people, do you think we have a housing shortage? Do you think we have an employment shortage, meaning of having jobs and people unemployed? Do you think that all of our social services would be destroyed? If Joe Biden wasn't in office, is there 100,000 Somalis stealing $25 billion from Minnesota? No. Our whole world would be different. There would not be over 1 million children lost into the Netherlands of America. We would not, everything would have changed. And that's why I'm so angry, because I saw it, I witnessed it. Look, we can talk about Maria the maid and Jose the gardener. Are there gardeners and maids crossing the border? Hell yes. I arrested them ad nauseum. At the same time, when I go through Jose's wallet or Maria's purse, all I find are welfare benefit cards of everything you can imagine. Fake Social Security numbers. If you ever had your Social Security number taken, good luck. The rest of your life is going to be hell. That aside, I have arrested ad nauseum the pedophiles, the drug dealers, the murderers, the rapists, ad nauseum. And every time one of those savages stood in front of me, I knew he represented millions. We have millions of gang members, rapists, and pedophiles and drug dealers in our country right now. I'm not even talking about the terrorists, the special interest aliens, 200,000 of them lost. I'm not talking about the 200,000 Chinese with 100,000 of them identified as PLA soldiers. I'm not talking about the 60 to 70% that came from the Middle East and the continent of Africa that are Muslims. Look, 2020, that's why I want people arrested. 2020 was treason against America. And the next 4 years are what Joe Biden and Secretary of DHS Alejandro Mayorkas, who is a naturalized citizen from the communist nation of Cuba, how they destroyed America. And this is my final point I want to make. What they did, they the left and the anti-Americans, do not have to do a damn thing. Nothing. You know what they have to wait for? Time. Why? Because 50 million to 60 million illegal aliens are in America, and they're reproducing up to 5 times that of a dying population in America. Within a generation or two, there will be more of them than they are of us. And the game is over. That's why I push for this massive deportation now. Like, instantly has to happen. If we don't get rid of birthright citizenship, we will lose this country. Because the left, Biden and the globalist reset brought in a demographic ticking time bomb that is exploding right now in real time. And we will never, ever get control over it again.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
There's a question in the chat from Debbie. She wants to know if you have thoughts on who was really running our country during the Biden regime.
Well, a lot of people believe it's Obama. Obama and all of his cabinet were there. I believe that there is a global reset going on in the world. I think Western Europe is dead. Outside of Poland and Hungary, I think the UK is dead. I think Ireland, for example, Ireland last year, 94% of Irish births were to foreigners. 94%. 85% of Belgians under 18 are foreign nationals. It's over. Europe is done. There'll be a massive race war, religious war in Europe. That's what's going to happen in America if we don't eradicate them from our nation immediately. Islam is incompatible to the West, and then our connection to Israel, the government of Israel, cannot. Our foreign entanglements have strangled us, and we are committing suicide. We're strangling ourselves because we are sending trillions of dollars overseas every year, and then the people that we brought into the country are literally financially raping our nation to death, a la the Somalis.
Is enough deportation happening that you can tell?
No. Okay. You have let's say that every immigration officer, Border Patrol, ICE, CBP, everyone, and we throw in FBI, etc. You're looking at about 35,000 people working day. No one takes a break. No one sleeps. No one gets injured. Nobody has anything. They're just doing that. How long does it take? Just do the math on your calculator. How long does it take 30,000 officers to find, locate, arrest, and deport 50 million people?
Especially when you have,
It's 125 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially when you have active traitors living among us, resisting you at every turn.
Yes.
Vilifying you at every turn, attacking you at every turn. It makes it that much harder, to simply do your job.
And all these people that are here protesting for illegal aliens, the people they're protesting and trying to save, and it's going to sound crude, but it doesn't matter. They would, and they will, and they are right now, they would rape you into submission. And if you're a man, they're going to make you watch, and they're going to laugh. They're going to laugh I've been around them my whole life. They are vile. Look, you're taking people from the Middle East and the continent of Africa, Venezuela, Haiti, and Latin America. Their average IQ is below 70. 70 is the demarcation for retardation, okay? 70. They're below. We imported tens of millions of medically diagnosed retarded people. I don't know if people understand this. I don't know if people really realize what's happened to America. Why do you think rapes are proliferating? Why are women, look, I'll give you an example. Mohammed in Nashville, Tennessee, comes on a woman, she's either sleeping or knocked out, and he rapes her to death. Do you know how much effort it takes to rape a woman to death? He's from Somalia. What is he doing here? And as I tell all my audiences, it's stop looking at Mohammed from Somalia as an individual. He's not an individual. He represents tens of millions of men just like him. They have no respect for women. They have no respect for sexual boundaries. They have no respect for law. They have no cognitive ability to truly think on a human first world level. So why did your country do that to you? Why would your country bring those people in? Why? Because they hate America and they want to change America. And I've written about this. I've done documentaries. If you take your glasses off, and those glasses, those lenses you look at are America, apple pie, baseball, just work hard. Just work hard and you're going to be okay. If you rip them off and throw them away and you put on glasses and you look through the lens and it's the lens of I hate America. America is a patriarchy. They are oppressive. They're slave masters. Everything you are looking at now makes complete sense. It all makes sense. Nobody could do this to their own country unless they hated it.
What do they hate about it?
They hate that we're successful. They believe that everything that we have gotten as a white Christian nation is because we oppressed and we extracted all of the great things from those countries. It's absurd. It's an absurd way of thinking, but that is what has permeated across Western Europe, Australia, and New Zealand and Canada. The only countries that are exempt from this is Russia and Poland and Hungary. They take in no refugees. They take in no Muslims, and they are peaceful nations. Look at what we have done. We have brought in millions upon millions of our enemy. And let me ask you this, guys. When we go to war, and everybody that is anybody right now is talking about we are going to go to some form of war. When me and my son and all of us go to war, who is left here? Our women, our children, and all of the illegal aliens. What in God's name do you think is going to happen to America?
Women better learn how to defend ourselves, apparently.
There is no
Yeah.
woman here in America that is going to be able to defend herself against third world savages that hack each other to death with machetes, lived in poverty that we can't imagine, that are physically hardened. They will dominate our nation. Who's going to win this war when they get turned loose? All those Muslims and all those terrorists. The guy that's serving you your coffee at Starbucks that has multiple tattoos and piercings and has a man bun and skinny arms, or the guy that just came off the boat that's 19 years old and he's already hacked 12 people to death with machetes. My money's on the guy that hacks people to death.
Why doesn't JJ? Why doesn't the leftist Karen, who is attacking the ICE officers, know this? She's gonna be the first one that they come after if they ever get through us. Why does she not know that? Why does she not know that?
I think they're mentally ill. I really do. I believe we have a mental illness problem in the United States of America. And I bet you can tie it all the way back to birth control. I bet you can tie it back to abortions, psychiatric drugs. I bet you can tie it all back to that. We have, that's the only way I can describe it because it's so irrational to me. There's no way that somebody could come to me and convince me of the left's stance. Like, it's not even close. Like, you and I, if I get it with a leftist about homelessness or monetary policy, I bet you that we have quite a lot in the middle ground, right? I don't want people being homeless. I don't want people sleeping under a bridge. So we can have some middle ground. Those days are gone, Chris. Where am I supposed to meet these people halfway? You want to kill ICE officers and police officers? Do I just let you shoot them in the legs? Do I let you kill babies? If you're going to meet me halfway, you want to kill it as the head crowns and starts to come out. No. So I'm supposed to accept you're gonna rip the limbs off a baby at 4.5 months. Now I'm gonna let you just transition children at 12 years old instead of 8 years old. Am I gonna let you have half the nation open borders and the other half secure? Where do I meet these horrific evil people?
Yeah.
No, I can't.
How do you meet them in the middle? Yeah, you can't.
I'm not going to meet them in the middle. Look, these people are evil. I'm not meeting Satan halfway. I'm just not. And when you look at them and you listen to how vile they are, here's just a great way. When they go protest, be it the pink hats or whatever they do, none of us go there and mock them and throw stuff and try to hit them and kill them. You and I just go and we just walk down the street with MAGA hats on and they want to kill us. We talked about this for a few minutes before. If we continue down this road and nothing changes, we're going to have a kinetic battle between Americans. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. You can't talk. They killed Charlie Kirk. They tried to kill President Trump twice. They're trying to kill officers of the law. Do you think that how long it's going to take before they spill into the streets? They're ripping people out of cars in Minneapolis because they think that they have to be law enforcement because they're in an SUV, and they're beating them up and destroying their property. When does the anarchy spill into the suburbs and then all of the people with guns open up? It's a matter of time.
JJ, two quick questions here. Do you think that President Trump fully understands this threat? And even more importantly, do you think all of the people who are very close to him and advising him are loyal to him?
The second question, are there people that are loyal to him? No. I'll give you a great example. Lindsey Graham. What kind of loyalty? Why does Donald Trump have him anywhere near him? Do I think he has great advisors? Yes, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Rodney Scott, who's the commissioner of CBP, Tom Homan, who's the border czar, Sarah Carter, now that is the drug czar. He has some incredibly talented, intelligent people. With that being said, if I had 60 seconds with President Trump and he's walking between the White House and he's like, KJ, you got 60 seconds, I would say, sir, you have to attach the military to the United States Border Patrol and ICE. You have to make this a national security issue, and I have a way to do it. I know how to do it. I know I'm looking at the totality of it. You have the men and women in the Border Patrol and ICE are patriotic, dedicated, and they want to do as best they can. They have to be protected in order to do that. And you have to call up, not National Guard, you have to call up our military. If it's okay to secure other nations in times of turmoil, it's okay to secure American. And anybody that says, well, you can't do that, no, it's been done throughout the history of the United States of America multiple times. And it has to be done now. I think Donald Trump wants to do it. I really do. I believe that the problem is so gigantic, and that is I will have to tip my hat to my adversary, the left, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Obama. They have created such a horrific situation that it's going to take Herculean effort and a lot of strength, like a lot of fortitude, to correct it. It's just not going to be easy. It's not going to be without violence and bloodshed. There is no coming. I say to people, and they say, well, kind of give me an analogy, like, what do you think America? I think America is stage 4 cancer. I really do. And I'm a doctor, and you come to me, Chris, and you say, help me. And I say, okay, you only have 2 options, Chris. I'm either going to do nothing, and you're going to die a miserable death in about 6 months, or I'm going to go in surgery right now, and I'm going to carve you up. I'm going to take out all the cancer that's spread out all over your body, and it is going to be absolutely painful, miserable. You're going to want to die. But after a little while, you're going to come back better than you were. Would you take that? I would take that. That's where America is. America, if nothing's done in the immediate future, we will die. We may continue to be the United States of America, but we will not be the United States of America we were today or 10 years ago. Or we could all go through this violent purge of the cancer in our country. And if you're willing to do that, then I believe Americans are, then we can get to the other side. There is no getting out of this with peace, tranquility, and unicorn and rainbows. It's going to be violent. It's going to be painful, because the other side, the adversaries, want, without a shadow of a doubt, to destroy America, and they are not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah. Is your thought about connecting the military proper to the Border Patrol, is that the Insurrection Act the way to do that?
Yes, I would do the Insurrection Act. They already have the military down on the border right now, so just bring them up into the interior, right? Anybody that comes out, every single person that touches a law enforcement officer or threatens them gets arrested. And then I don't want them put into some county jail. I want them shipped to a federal installation hundreds of miles away, and we're going to deal with you when we deal with you. This idea that you can shoot, kill, spit at, punch, fight officers is insane. And if we don't crush it immediately, it will spiral out of control. And these Karens and these beta males and all of this money being pumped in from George Soros and the liberal scumbags, they're funding this. We're allowing people to fund our demise.
And we have allowed them to use our money to fund our demise.
It's our money, because you're absolutely correct. George Soros, through Elon Musk, proved this, that George Soros types spend $1 million and create an NGO. Well, how did they get $100 million? Well, then they petition the government, and our government grants them money. So we are actually paying for this pain and suffering. I know it's hard for Americans to try to wrap their brain around, but you are feeding, you're poisoning yourself. You're paying for the death of you and your family.
Should we
all
pay
need to wake
taxes?
up. Yep.
Yeah. You know what, JJ, the point you made a little while ago about, the failure of men in our society to stand up to prevent this from happening in the very first instance. We are where we are because of our failure, to stand up and show courage and prevent this from happening. I think it's a universal human tendency to stick your nose in the sand and not do a damn thing until the water starts rushing into your own house and you start drowning. And unfortunately, by then, it's just too damn late at that point. But I want to ask you, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you were in charge of getting the 30 million or so illegal aliens out of our country, or let's just say the violent criminals out of our country, the pedophiles, the rapists, that sort of thing. What would you do differently? I know you said you involved the military, but what specifically? And how long do you think it would take you to solve this problem?
Very first thing I would do is institute, because we all have the Real ID Act that's already passed. I would do E-Verify, and then I would do heavy, heavy fines on businesses that employ illegal aliens. You can't get a rent, you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a bank account, you can't get anything because you don't have the proper ID. You're gone. You're gone. And they will leave. They're not here for anything. George Bush lied to us and said they're here for they want to be Americans. They don't want to be Americans. They just want to take from us. I believe there needs to be mass deportations in the form of, I want to deputize all of state and local law enforcement, and then I put a bounty on each head of illegal alien, meaning, so let's say you have a sheriff in Nebraska, and he rounds up 1,000 illegal aliens. He gets $1,000 a head. He gets $1 million for his county, and then we pay every time you make an arrest, we'll pay you a bounty, and then we'll pay you the officer's hourly wage. That exponentially gets us more law enforcement. Military needs to come in. Military needs to be deputized in immigration law. They don't need just to provide protection. They're going to go after and learn and be saddled up with Border Patrol. Also, immigration judges, they need to come from the JAG in military, cross-designate them, set up 24-hour-a-day courthouses that just run these people through. At the same time, I make an emergency, a national security emergency, and I state, executive order, no one's going to see the judge. Only very small cases will go in front of the judge. Everyone will be a one-page deportation. I take your fingerprints, your biographical data, and then you're deported. I don't care. You don't. This due process is a lie. There's no such thing as due process for illegal aliens. It's propaganda. They do not have the rights under our Constitution. They don't. That's a lie. So military, law enforcement, E-Verify, no seeing the judges, only with extreme cases, and everyone's done. And then people that we find that have committed fraud, committed crimes of any type, after they naturalize, I want them denaturalized, and I want them out of our country. Now, you start with that, and then everything starts to go fast. Listen, I just had a discussion with someone today. I don't, as a law enforcement officer, I don't have to arrest 50 million illegal aliens. All I have to do is make it so miserable for them to exist in my country, they will leave on their own. And if I do that, as well as consistent day in and day out, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them being arrested in their communities and deported immediately, like within 24 hours, they will leave on their own. So Donald Trump is doing some great things. He's doing things that are outside the box, things that are not, quote, normal. These are not normal times. This is for the emergency. This is for the soul of the United States of America. We are not a melting pot of diversity. That is a lie. Diversity is not a strength, it's a cancer. And we're living through it today. We're living through the
forced diversity, certainly. You're right. I would agree with you there.
But if
But
you come
JJ
into the country, if you learn the language and you learn the culture and the customs and you love America, I have no problem with that. But we have inundated ourselves with 50, 60, 70 million people that hate America. I want your
Yes.
audience to understand this before we go, that this is how bad the problem is. There's 50 million plus illegal aliens in America. Right now, there's 55 million foreigners here on visas. You have over 105 million people in America. You have infrastructure that is made to satisfy 350 million Americans, but your infrastructure is being stretched to accommodate 450 million people. That's why we have housing crisis. That's why we're out of money in Social Security, et cetera, because we have allowed our demise in. They all have to go. All of them have to go.
Why do you think, JJ, that the people who allowed this to happen in the prior administrations are not being indicted and prosecuted?
If there was one thing I had with Donald Trump, I would be like, sir, I don't understand. The only explanation I have is people that I trust, that I've spoken to, said, you need to understand that whole entire Washington, D.C. is a cesspool of corruption and criminality. There is a significant percentage of them that are pedophiles. Tucker Carlson has come out and said the vast majority have sexual deviancy and perversion. James O'Keefe came out and said the same thing. So meaning they're all complicit in some kind of taboo behavior, be it criminal, sexual, with children, with whatever, animals, whatever it is, but they are complicit. They're compromised. So that's why nothing gets done. Why hasn't anybody been arrested in Jeffrey Epstein in his deal? Well, why has the Clintons got away with it? Why did Mayorkas not get thrown in jail? Why is Biden not thrown in jail? Because they all know what they've already done. Hillary Clinton said that very perfectly in 2016. If I go down, I'm taking everyone with me.
Well, I wish you would.
Yeah. If we don't hit law and order, if we don't get arrested, like by the thousands, this is all going to be just kabuki theater. And I think Donald Trump will lose the massive base because MAGA is changing to America first and America only. That's the trend right now.
And JJ, do you think, I know we have to let you go, but do you think that part of this Minnesota fraud uncovering and all of the surrounding illegal aliens and immigrants that are getting kind of wrapped up and arrested in this, do you think that there's got to be a first level of cleanup that can happen before the real arrest of the named people happen, just because those are the very thugs that are on red alert to go completely bananas whenever the first arrest happens?
Well, I think what you're asking is, do you work from the bottom up or the top down? Is that what you're asking for arrest?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, do you have to clear out some of the mayhem before you start the arrest because they have a button to press?
I don't think you wait. I don't believe in this. I think that what I found is the best thing to do is I make the arrest that I can make, and then I squeeze them. And then I just tell them, this is what should be done. Should be done with 2020 election, should be done with the fraud. I line them up, and they're all looking into their hard cell. And I tell them, everyone turn to your right and left. Look at each other. Okay, we're all going to go into this room in 3 seconds, and the very first person that gives me what I need, they get a deal. Everyone else is going to rot. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Get them in there. They will all, every last one of them, will be banging the door down to get to me, to tell me who was the person above them. And then I just march all the way to the top. But when you begin this process, that process can't stop. You have got to arrest your way all the way to the top. And if that means arresting your billionaire friends or whoever it is, they all have to go down. Or this is all a lie. Because you can't have 2, 3, 4 tiers of justice. If you do not have one tier of justice, you have no justice.
Yeah.
None. And that's what we're living through today. No justice.
Yeah. One last question from the chat from Debbie. She says, do you think Real ID is a good idea? I know some people have said, privacy concerns around it.
Okay, we all use a credit card. We have closed circuit TV cameras all over the nation, the entire nation. We have cell phones. Those days are gone. They're gone. So you're telling me that with all of that surveillance, everyone's worried about an ID card that you swipe. Are you kidding me? I can sit in law enforcement and trace your credit card purchases. Within a week, I can tell exactly where you're going to be. Any time of the day, I can say, yep, she lives in this area. This is where she goes. Probability at Walmart on Monday. She likes to go drop her kid off at school, get gas at that 76 station. So the real ID, let me give you an example. In Mexico, when I arrest a Mexican national, they all of them have a national ID card. And on that ID card is their thumbprint and their picture. If Mexico is so concerned about IDing their people, you think we shouldn't? And the real ID is minuscule to credit card tracing, cell phone tracing, all of that. I can tell, we can just trace your cell phone. You can turn it off. That's fine. We're still going to ping you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So I'm not fearful of the real ID. We have come to the point that the real ID is going to have to be the only thing that can scan, and I should be, as a law enforcement officer, be able to literally scan your card on a handheld device that I have, and your face, name, and fingerprint should pop up immediately. And I should just be able to look at you and say, let me look at your thumb. And you can just look at your, push it right up on there, and you can go, that's not you. Okay, so that's not you. What are you doing with this ID? It's not yours. Well, I'm illegal. Okay, you're hooked up. Okay, we're in 2026. We've already given away all of our privacy. ID card is not something I'm going to die on the hill for. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, the ship has sailed then.
We need it. I need identification.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want something that is tamper-proof. That's what I want. If that's a real ID, that's fine.
Can I, one last question from my end here, JJ, and then we're going to go. Do you, this may be an obvious question, but how much do you rely on the men and the women that you work with on a daily basis for strength and sustenance? How important is that?
Oh, it's everything. When you're working with guys that love what they do and they feel an obligation to be good at it, there's no stopping. Like the guys that I supervised in the Border Patrol and now in the new agency that I'm in, very, very similar. I want your audience to really understand this. Are the law enforcement officer, are they all great? No, that'd be impossible. But the vast, vast majority are very much Christian, God-fearing, patriotic people. They're not malicious in any intent. Do they have bad days? Do they lose their temper? Yes, because they're in a violent, vile world, okay? They're not going and knocking on your door, Chris, or meeting you in the parking lot, and you're going to be, yes, officer, no, officer. No, they're stopping someone named Chris, and Chris is spitting at them, calling them MFer, I'm going to kill you, I hate you, whatever. That's what we're dealing with. So when you're looking at law enforcement guys, I want you to give them some grace. How about you just give them a little grace? And then here's something no one ever asked, and this goes into your question, answer to your question. That ICE officer that shot that woman, has anybody even asked how he's doing?
Right.
In media? Has anybody asked that his shooting was righteous, it was per policy, per law, per everything, but he still killed someone. So he's going to carry that for the rest of his life. I blame that woman for that pain that he has to suffer. But no one ever asked that officer, are you okay? You know why? Because we have dehumanized them, us. They have made them caricatures of themselves, and they're soulless. So you assume that either he's okay or he doesn't care. And I'm telling you, it's neither. He cares deeply, it affects him, and he will carry it for the rest of his life. So when this starts to happen, Chris, what does law enforcement do? We begin to circle the wagons because the only real people that understand us are us.
Yeah. Well, and especially JJ, I would think if these men and women, of course, are so many believers, as you said, I mean, he also has that aspect of it. This woman's eternity. She's obviously a very disturbed person. That's
Yep.
a piece of what he's got to carry with him.
It is, and it's something that we all have to do. Um, it just, you get to the point that you're so desensitized to it all, and that is something that is, it's horrible to be, because you know instinctively, you know that that's not normal, right?
Yeah.
I instinctively know what repulses, frightens, makes people very uncomfortable, has no effect on me. That's not good, but that's who I am, and I can't
That's how you.
change it.
That's how you survive,
It's
JJ.
how you survive out there, and
Yeah.
and I'm not being overly dramatic. If I told you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow and the rest of your career, whatever you're doing, you guys are doing podcasts, you're doing a podcast, every single day you go, somebody's going to try to beat you up. Like you're going to physically be in a fight, like a fist fight. There's a probability someone's going to try to hit you in your car while you're driving. There's a probability that someone's going to try to kill you. That's going to be a lower probability, but it's always there. How do you think you're going to function in world? Every day, Danielle, tomorrow morning, you're going to go do your podcast. You're going to sit there and you're going to edit it, share the clips out. But as you're walking in to do that, they're going to punch you in your face
Yeah.
and throw you to the ground. You would
there's
come
no-
to work
Yeah.
on edge, right? You would be
Yeah, totally
you would
on
be
edge.
so ready. So why is it okay that law enforcement officers have to come to work with that mindset? We already know you're paying us, the American people are paying us to arrest criminals. That is an agreement that we made. You're paying us X amount with the probability of violence and injury and all that comes with it. What we did not sign up for is to have our citizens fighting us against arresting criminals. That was not part of the deal. So something has to give in this world of violence against us. And I'm going to tell your audience and anybody's watching, if you think the law enforcement officers are going to bend a knee to you, you're a fool. If you think men like me are going to ask you to please stop and not kill us, not going to happen.
How many of them out there are like you?
A lot of us are. A lot of us. And we're ready. That's why you're seeing us go. Do you think those guys in Minneapolis and in San Diego and Maine now and all the border agents, we love it, right? We love the excitement and the engagement and to a sense the violence, but it's overwhelming at times. And when you realize that there's a significant percentage of your brothers and sisters in citizenship that despise you and they mock you and they want you to die and they want you to suffer, that's hard to stomach.
The very people you're protecting.
I'm protecting you from a Somalian savage that is going to rape you to the point he's going to kill you. Try to understand what we're trying to save you from. And instead of hurling insults or trying to run us over, why don't you just say thank you and go about and do whatever it is that you're going to do in life and walk through La La Land as if everything's okay as we battle against the monsters and savages of evil that are in America. And they are by the millions out there. If you knew what we knew in law enforcement, you would never leave your effing house.
Yeah. Chris, why don't we just pray for JJ and for law enforcement before we let him go this evening?
Absolutely.
All right. Jesus, thank you so much for JJ, just for his bravery, for his leadership, for his tenacity, for his willingness to be an example for his son and for young men and for those coming up in the force. I pray that you would surround him, that you would protect him, that your perfect peace would cover him and his brothers and sisters that are alongside him. God, I pray that you would restore law and order to our nation. We ask we ask for righteousness to burst forth from the ground, Lord. We understand that this is a time of shaking, that this is a time of significant spiritual war, perhaps some of the greatest spiritual war that history has ever seen. And we just ask for your wisdom. We ask for your protection for all of those law enforcement officers and members of the military that are doing right by their fellow citizen, by their community, and by their country. And I pray that you would restore sanity to these communities, Lord. I pray that you would give law enforcement just insight and deep spiritual insight to understand what's going on, and to even see things before they happen so that they can protect themselves and their communities. Lord, we ask that you give them beautiful sleep, and that they don't carry the weight of this with them. They don't carry the weight of their job with them, Lord, that you said your yoke is easy and your burden is light. And we just pray that for them. We ask that you would remind them, that you would nudge them to shift the burden from their own shoulders onto yours. We love you, Lord, and we put them in your hands where they're the safest. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
JJ, I'm going to
Thank
have
you.
a question for you the next time we have you on, or maybe I'll ask you offline. But
Okay.
it's a question I think would be of interest to people. So thank you for everything that you're doing out there. And it's always heavy, when we talk about things like this, and it always makes me struggle with my own faith. I do have a deep spirituality and a deep faith in Christ, but it's a struggle that I have reconciling God's love and justice, which I know exists, with some of the horrible things that exist in this world, and yet I know that He is a God of justice and perfect justice. Maybe not in our way, in our time, but indeed He is. But thank you for helping to be an instrument of that justice in your own way, and you're a real warrior.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it and enjoyed
Yes,
our
sir.
conversation. Thank you.
Yes,
Us
sir.
too. God bless you, JJ.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Chris, what a gift to us. What a gift to our country.
Yep.
You you okay?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay, but it's just difficult because it's just hard to think about those kids who are out there,
Yeah.
and I just find it overwhelming to think about it, you know and but ironically it's really that deepens my faith in God, because if they don't have perfect justice in this life, these children, they absolutely will be as close to the heart of God for eternity when they die, when this life is over. And in the grand scheme of things, Danielle, this life is a blip on the screen, a blink of the eye. And then we have an eternity to spend with the Savior. And I guarantee you that if there is a hierarchy in heaven, these children and have suffered this way and will suffer this way will be absolutely resting at the bosom of Abraham forever.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm able to sleep at night, because I do believe that ultimately God's justice, His retributive justice, is perfect.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, people like JJ just remind us that we have a responsibility. We cannot sit on the sidelines and watch our country be completely destroyed. We have an absolute responsibility to use the gifts and the time that God's given us to do what He's asked us to do. And I think each person innately knows that. And if they don't innately know that, then they should be seeking the Lord to find out what it is that they should be doing. Because we're living in a very I don't know, the crazy time. This is a decade of war, spiritually. That's what this whole decade is about on the Hebraic calendar, and it's living up. It's living up to that. And so people, I think this was a very apt first guest Warrior Wednesday, because we had a real warrior, and we talked about some extremely difficult things. But I do appreciate his realism, and I just hate how much our law enforcement officers have to carry with them, are carrying with them because of what they see and experience. That's not, we want our world and our nation and our communities to be peaceful, and he's a part of making that possible.
Yeah. Amazing human being, incredible
Yeah.
American.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Chris, maybe just in wrapping up, I'll make a couple of announcements unless you had anything else you wanted to say on that.
No, thank you.
Okay. Just tomorrow morning, we will be back in the saddle at 10 a.m. We'll probably look a little bleary-eyed because we're not used to this, folks. But thanks to everyone for joining. We will have Will Chamberlain with us tomorrow from the Article 3 Project, talking about rogue judges, the potential to actually impeach some of them, and what the Article 3 Project is up to with respect to fraud and fraudsters like Ilhan Omar and others. So that'll be a very punchy conversation, and I know it should be a really a good conversation. He's always a great guest as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a
Well,
big
thank
thank
you.
you to
Yeah,
all of our, I'm sorry, Chris, a big thank
it's
you to
okay.
all of the warriors who joined in the chat this evening. We're so thankful for you. And if you are joining us tonight and you want to subscribe, please do that at join.freedomstate.us. I'll put that up on the screen again real quick. And then I think we are good, Chris.
Well, I just want to say this last comment before we go.
Yeah.
I want everyone to know that I they would have to kill me to get me to quit fighting for righteousness and goodness and all those things that are true and pure and just. They would have to kill me to get me to stop. I know that I fight in a very different sphere than JJ Carrell does, but I want to invite all the men who listen to this podcast to become reacquainted with the warrior spirit that exists within you, that God gave you as men, and begin to tap into that. Because we don't have the luxury anymore of idleness. We don't have the luxury anymore of apathy. This is the 11th hour, and there is injustice everywhere around us. And either we're going to stand up and confront it and defeat it and destroy it, or it's going to destroy us. And there are no two ways about it. And so for all the men who are listening to the podcast, or who may listen to the podcast, you will have an eternity looking back on your lives to either say, I did everything within my power to confront and defeat evil, or I was a coward because I didn't have the guts to do what was necessary to protect my country, to protect my church, to protect my family, to protect basic human decency. So you'll have an eternity to think about one of those two realities. We just don't have any more time, Danielle. And that is what was most deeply impressed upon me by JJ Carrell's appearance tonight on our show. We don't have the time to sit on our asses anymore. It's time for us to move and to fight and to win, and we can still win, but we're running out of time. And that's what I wanted to say.
All right. Well said, Chris. God bless you, sir. I will see you bright and early, my friend.
God bless you. Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Let him work with your insurance company and let him treat you right if you have a problem. There's no more important commodity on your home than your roof. And, when there's a problem with it, you need to be able to trust, both financially and with respect to the workmanship, who is doing your work. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.